That was back in Garden City.
No, like old house in Garden City.
No.
Fuck, I wouldn't know.
It's like, why didn't I ever notice?
Yeah, but the thing is that even though
like in our apartment.
Oh yeah.
But I'm
You
glad.
hit me, but I got him too.
Oh, okay, so.
I don't know how to start this one. No idea. Let's Tap, a game developed by none other than famed programmer and Sonic the Hedgehog creator, Yuji Naka, alongside his studio Probe. Now with a name like Let's Tap, you can just tell this game has some kind of gimmick to the control scheme, to which you'd be correct. The way you play this game is certainly unique. Let's Tap is controlled by placing your Wiimote buttons down on a box. Now this could be a shoebox, a tissue box, or even the fancy Let's Tap boxes that were included with the special edition of the game, and you just tap the box. That's it. So you set the box down and hover your hands or fingers over the box, and tap as necessary. It's really that simple. There are some things to remember though. You tap once to move down the menu, and double tap to actually select a menu option. This method of controlling sucks. Just pick up the damn controller and use the buttons. You'll save yourself a lot of time. The timing for the double tap is weirdly specific, and as such you'll constantly move through the menu instead of actually selecting the menu option you wanted. It's terrible, honestly. Beyond the menu, the tapping controls work relatively well though. It's just weird. The first time I played it, I couldn't believe what I was doing. In a way it felt kinda like magic. Then I played the game, and that feeling went away pretty damn fast. Let's Tap is just a very small collection of 5 minigames, although I almost feel like calling them minigames would be a bit generous. Not because they're bad necessarily, but because they lack a certain polish. They more come off like tech demos. So let's take a look at what this game is all about. The first minigame is definitely the most iconic of the lot, being featured heavily in all the promotional artworks, as well as the box art of the game, featuring chromatic characters of multiple colours, who look kinda like Mii's without the features, and they're running on these sort of wireframe tracks. It throws the occasional obstacle at you walk across a tightrope, or hurdles, or even a big piston thing that will flatten you if you happen to get caught underneath it. And essentially it's just one big race to the finish line. You keep tapping the box to make your guy run, but here's the problem. It's another one of those situations where you can't really tell how hard you're hitting it due to the gimmicky controls. Not motion controls this time though, but tap strength. Yes, there's tap strength, and this is what sort of ruins the game in my eyes. Tap Runner, for instance, you do light taps to run, and I think medium taps to run faster. Like I said, it's hard to tell with the way this game controls, and hard taps to jump. I found Tap Runner overall to be really frustrating. It's so close to being a fun little party game, but it's really held back by the controls being so damn finicky. You'll be tapping away, intending to run, and you'll accidentally jump, because for as much as you're focusing, sometimes you just accidentally tap a bit too hard. And if you jump in a place where it's not required, like in the middle of the track where there's no hurdles or jump obstacles to be seen, there's quite the substantial penalisation. You slow right down. If you jump at a hurdle, you'll just bound right on over, and the reason the jump is so high and slow has an intended practical purpose, as certain levels have higher roads you can take, but it's a nightmare to actually jump because it's so damn awkward. Tap Runner could be fun, but the game without the gimmicky controls would be too easy and feel kinda lackluster. But let's not just dwell on the one game, let's move on. Do you like Donkey Konga, or any drumming games of that type? Cool, we'll take Donkey Konga. Remove one of the drums, and basically all the fun, and you have rhythm tap. Okay, maybe I'm being a bit too harsh in this one. I'll spoil it now, however, because of how this works, it's easily the most enjoyable game on the disc, although I'm not sure it actually works properly. You have 3 colours, blue, green, and a red or orange colour. Each corresponds to a strength of tap. Blue is light, green is medium, and orange is strong. But it feels like it doesn't really matter how hard you hit it. It still seems to count as a successful tap, which honestly makes it a bit less frustrating. Games with motion controls really need to stop asking for precision, because it's the biggest annoyance when a game you can barely control asks you to be super precise. I almost prefer it when games use motion controls as essentially an extra button, such as in Super Mario Galaxy. The spin is controlled by shaking, and that to me is the same as just pressing a button. A little shake that works 99% of the time and doesn't overcomplicate the gameplay. But, with that being said, this is definitely one of the more enjoyable minigames, but it can be difficult to fully enjoy, and this is mainly due to the box itself. While playing this one, I found the box gradually moving away from me. Maybe that's just due to how I was hitting it. I'm not sure, but even then, the noise! This goes for all games, but it was particularly noticeable when playing this game. The box is so damn loud. I can't say what the official Let's Tap boxes are like. I was using my Nintendo Vans Shoebox, and that was pretty damn loud and distracting. So many things got in the way of me fully being able to enjoy this one. Now we get to the weirder games. These are the ones nobody tends to talk about, and for good reason, because I'm not sure where to start with this one. This minigame being called Silent Block for some reason, and it's like a weird mix of a Daruma Otoshi game, which are those Japanese games with a stack of discs you knock out with a hammer. Essentially a Japanese variation of Jenga, that combined with some principles of Tetris, and honestly this game feels like it barely needs the tap controls. You start with an arrow going up to the tower as you tap to pick a block to knock out, and then tap again to choose which side you want to hit it from. And this part feels very arbitrary to me. It doesn't use your tap controls in an interesting way, you just time your tap for whichever selection you want. That's it, it's just a waste. Once you've chosen the block you want on the side you want, you then have to use your magical tapping skills to move the block you choose out from the stack without toppling the whole thing over. If you're on point with your tapping, doing it ever so lightly, then you can knock the block out no problem, and then if you line up 3 of the same coloured blocks, they turn into a gold one, and you get points, I think. This game makes very little sense to me, and honestly it's dull as hell. The next one, however, Bubble Voyager. Now while this game isn't as strange as Silent Block, because, come on, what is Silent Block even trying to be? Bubble Voyager feels sort of like a balloon fight side-scroller, except instead of flapping your arms to thrust yourself up, you tap the box and bubbles pop out of your hero's back, floating him higher. The main goal this time around being to avoid all the dangerous objects and attack any enemies you see with missiles, which seem to be a mystery as to how they control. Could be a double tap, could be a single, I don't really know. The game doesn't really tell you how it's done. It's not really that enjoyable anyway. It's slow and everything feels very floaty and sluggish. Graphically, I like how the Bubble Voyager himself looks. He has a very mecha anime look to him, and it's kind of cute, although the environment isn't much to look at. Most environments in Let's Tap are pretty bare bones, to be honest. Now, there's one more game, but I don't think you can really call this one a game. Its name is Visualizer. Yes, Visualizer. Like those things you see when you play music in the Windows Media Player, or whatever the Mac uses. Except this time, you can tap and make things happen. Just fantastic. Like, what could I honestly say about this? Tap and fireworks appear, or some ink splats on the screen. Was this intended to be fun? Was this intended to grab someone's attention, or was it just a shameless attempt to add more to an already lackluster game? Either way, Visualizer isn't even a game, and I could get more enjoyment from watching an audio visualizer in an old car stereo. At least Let's Tap has some good music though. Not that you'd be allowed to listen to them while using Visualizer, because that would just be stupid. No, just... I'm dead inside. I will give Let's Tap credit where it's due though. In some areas of design the game does pretty well. The game has an interesting look to it, with some games boasting minimalist yet pleasant art styles, notably Tap Runner and Bubble Voyager. The rest of the games look very thrown together, like they knew what the minigames were going to be, but the graphics for those parts were more of an afterthought, and I think that's the worst part of Let's Tap. It comes across at face value like a game which had a decent amount of thought put into the concept and art direction, at least in certain areas, as demonstrated by the channel graphics in the Wii. I mean, just look at it. It's more lively and animated than even games put out by Nintendo themselves. But when you play the game, it feels very lackluster, and I keep using that word, because it's true. There are only 2 games that feel genuinely interesting, the rest are dull and uninteresting. I got this game for free. It was a bonus for buying 2 other games, cheapest item free, and even then it was only 99p on its own, and rightfully so, because paying any more would have been a rip-off. It's a thoroughly flawed game that highlighted a lot of the overarching problems with the Wii itself, as well as the controls often feeling unrefined and other parts of the games coming off as an afterthought. The Wii was a dumping ground for people's concepts, and it's kind of a shame as it's an unfortunate library of games which contributes to the sort of negative reputation the Wii has. The Wii had the largest install base, and as such it meant a lot of developers saw this as a cash grab, so they'd rush out to make some poorly optimised and shallow party games and market them to families. And not to stereotype, but from my experience most parents who owned Wiis would have no idea when it came to buying quality games. I know a lot of people lack faith in the Wii having any kind of good games at all, but I'm going to try and show you as many of the good games this console had to offer during its lifetime. It is occasionally fun, however, to go back to some of the crazy and more terrible concepts that came onto the Wii. But having said that, if I never play another game in my life that requires me to tap on a shoebox, it'll be too soon. So yeah. Thank you so much for watching. Did you enjoy that video? Do you want to stay tuned for more in the future? Then consider subscribing to keep up to date when a new video goes up. Or if you want, you can follow me on Twitter, where I like to discuss all things gaming, or right now you can find me there crying that I don't have Breath of the Wild yet. You done all that stuff? Good. Since you're still here, you may be in the mood for some more videos I've done. I recently vlogged for basically 6 days straight and threw it all together into one big video, documenting my time at an anime and gaming convention in Leicester called Alcon. It was a fun time. Or if you want more reviews of terrible Wii games, check out my recent video on Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. It goes about as well as you think it does. Finally, I want to give a big shout out to my swell patrons on Patreon. I'm planning to make the Patreon shoutout screen way more badass, so stay tuned for that in the future. But I want to sincerely thank you all for the support. I mean this when I say it helps me out a lot. Until next time.